My name is Clara Reed. I am 26 years old, and I live alone in a small rented room in Viridia City, a quiet place filled with tall buildings, busy streets, and people always rushing somewhere. 2 months ago, I lost my job as a receptionist in a small travel agency. That time was very hard for me. Every morning, I woke up early, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat in front of my old laptop. I sent out job applications and wrote many emails, hoping someone would reply, but nobody did. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and my savings slowly disappeared. I had to count every coin to buy food. My rent was due soon, and I didn't know how I would pay it. I felt tired, scared, and alone. One rainy evening, my best friend Lena came to visit me. She brought a small box of donuts and smiled kindly, but I could see in her eyes that she was worried about me. "Clara, you look so pale," she said softly. "What's wrong?" I told her everything. How I lost my job, how I couldn't pay rent, and how hopeless I felt. She listened quietly.
Then she said something that surprised me. "Clara," she said, "some people can't have babies, so they pay women to carry a baby for them. It's called surrogacy. You could earn a lot of money." I looked at her, shocked. "People really do that?" "Yes," she nodded. "It's legal. You could help a family and earn enough to start over." That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words kept echoing in my mind. $500,000. It sounded impossible, but that money could change everything. I could pay my debts, my rent, and even open my dream coffee shop. So, the next morning, I searched online for private surrogacy offers. One ad caught my eye.
I read it again and again. The next day, I decided to visit the address. It was a secluded, opulent mansion nestled on the quieter side of Viridia's city, shielded by towering gates and ancient manicured hedges. My breath hitched as I approached the heavy carved oak door of the mansion, its grandeur a stark contrast to my tiny rented room.
A part of me, the pragmatic, weary Clara, urged me to dismiss this as a fantasy too good to be true, a dangerous leap into the unknown. But another part, the desperate, yearning Clara, pushed me forward, propelled by the shimmering promise of a fresh start, a life free from the suffocating grip of debt and worry.
Standing on that polished marble step, it felt like the precipice of my entire future, a single choice that would either pull me from despair or plunge me into something far more intricate than I could imagine. I pressed the ornate doorbell, its chime echoing not just through the house, but through the very chambers of my uncertain heart.
A fragile seed of hope began to stir beneath my apprehension, a quiet conviction that this might just be the improbable solution to an impossible problem.
Alistair, the client, though at that moment he felt more like a gatekeeper to a destiny I couldn't yet fully comprehend. He simply gestured for me to enter, and I stepped across the threshold, leaving behind the rainy streets and, unknowingly, a piece of my old self. Inside, the mansion was a symphony of hushed luxury, every detail meticulously chosen.
We sat in a grand study, sunlight streaming through tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, a surreal backdrop to the conversation that followed. Mr. Alistair, with quiet solemnity, laid out the terms of the surrogacy agreement.
The $500,000 wasn't a myth. It was real. A concrete figure, heavy with unspoken possibilities and profound responsibilities. He spoke of his wife, Eleanor, their long, painful battle with infertility, and their desperate yearning for a child. His voice, though measured, carried an undercurrent of deep, personal sorrow.
The contract itself was a thick document, filled with legal jargon, outlining every detail imaginable: medical procedures, lifestyle requirements, confidentiality clauses, and the absolute expectation of relinquishing all parental rights upon birth. It was thorough, designed to protect everyone involved.
My rational mind tried to absorb every word, but my emotions were a tangled mess. One moment I felt a surge of financial relief. The next, a chilling tremor of fear rippled through me as the enormity of what I was agreeing to truly sank in. This wasn't just about carrying a baby. It was about surrendering a piece of my physical and emotional self.
The he in "he won't let me go" was beginning to materialize, not as a malicious captor, but as the overwhelming legal structure and the profound expectations of this childless couple. It was a silent, powerful demand that would soon dictate every aspect of my life. Despite the anxieties, the desperation that had driven me was a far more powerful force. After several more meetings, consultations, and a period of intense deliberation, I signed the papers. The pen felt impossibly heavy, each stroke sealing my commitment to a profound transformation of my own being. The initial relief was almost intoxicating, a giddy lightness that made me believe all my worries were finally behind me.
I could see the outlines of my dream coffee shop, smell the rich aroma of freshly brewed beans, feel the warmth of a financially stable future. This promise, this intoxicating vision, was my primary tether. My brain, awash in the dopamine rush of perceived problem-solving, began to reframe the entire experience. This wasn't a sacrifice. It was a strategic move, a temporary inconvenience for lasting freedom. This immediate psychological shift, where our minds rationalize uncomfortable decisions to reduce cognitive dissonance, is a fascinating aspect of human behavior. I knew, deep down, that this was an immense undertaking, but my fervent hope for a better future pushed all doubts to the periphery. I convinced myself I could compartmentalize, that this would be a purely clinical process, detached from emotion. The months that followed were a blur of medical appointments and the slow, miraculous unfolding of life within me.
But the emotional detachment I had planned proved to be far more elusive than anticipated, challenging every one of my initial rationalizations. The whispers began subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. A flutter, a gentle kick, a rhythmic heartbeat that I could feel against my own.
This wasn't merely a contractual obligation anymore. It was a growing presence, a tiny individual whose life was intimately intertwined with mine. The he of "he won't let me go" was no longer just the imposing contract or the earnest client. It was the life within, forging an undeniable, primal connection.
This phenomenon, this natural attachment, is deeply rooted in our biology, a testament to the powerful neurochemical cocktail that floods a woman's brain during pregnancy. Oxytocin, often called the love hormone, began to weave its magic, fostering a sense of deep connection and protective instinct that I hadn't anticipated. Dopamine, associated with pleasure and reward, started to connect the baby's movements and presence with profound feelings of joy and comfort. My brain was quite literally rewiring itself. I found myself instinctively talking to the baby, humming lullabies, placing my hand over my belly whenever I felt a stir.
It was an involuntary immersion, a profound bond forming against all my intentions. I tried to intellectualize it, to remind myself of the agreement, of the $500,000, of the dream coffee shop. But the rational arguments crumbled in the face of this overwhelming, visceral reality.
My friend Lena visited often, seeing the subtle changes in my demeanor, and I would offer vague answers, unable to articulate the bewildering mix of joy and terror that now permeated my days. Adding to this burgeoning internal conflict, Mr. Allister, the client, began to assert more presence, inadvertently tightening the external he that was already weighing on me. He became more involved in my appointments, asking meticulous questions about my diet, exercise, and even my emotional state. His concern, while understandable, began to feel less like care and more like surveillance. Every email from him, every scheduled check-in became a reminder of the contractual obligations, a constant pressure to perform. His watchful eyes, once a symbol of his desperate hope, now felt like a lens through which my every action was judged. The rules that had once felt necessary now felt like a meticulously constructed cage. I found myself becoming increasingly resentful, caught in a relentless cycle of cognitive dissonance. My rational mind knew the agreement was for their child, for my financial salvation. Yet my emotional self, now profoundly connected to the life within me, felt a burgeoning sense of possessiveness, a primal instinct to protect and nurture that clashed violently with the reality of the situation. I longed for independence, for the freedom that the money was supposed to buy, but I felt more trapped than ever. The thought of handing over the baby, once a simple transaction, now filled me with unspeakable dread. The joy I felt from the kicks and flutters was overshadowed by the impending separation, a grief I hadn't prepared for. This surrogacy, meant to liberate me, was beginning to echo old patterns, making me feel like I was surrendering my autonomy all over again. One particularly stormy evening, reminiscent of the day Lena first suggested surrogacy, I sat alone, holding a tiny, soft blanket, tears blurring my vision. The idea of "he won't let me go" had become a terrifying, multi-layered reality. The baby, the innocent he, had woven himself into the very fabric of my soul. Mr. Allister, the external he, exerted his legal and emotional claim, a powerful force dictating my moves. But in that moment of profound vulnerability, a chilling, yet liberating realization began to dawn. The most formidable he wasn't outside me at all. It was within me. It was the he of my past self, clinging to a narrative of victimhood, believing I needed a dramatic external solution to escape my problems. It was the he of my limiting beliefs, whispering that I wasn't strong enough, creative enough, or worthy enough to build my dream coffee shop through sheer hard work and perseverance.
It was the he of self-sabotage, subtly preventing me from fully embracing my own agency, always looking for the quickest way out, even if it meant sacrificing a part of myself. The comfort zone I craved wasn't just financial stability, it was the comfort of having an external problem to blame, a reason not to fully step into my own power. This grand escape plan, the surrogacy, was ironically becoming the very prison I was trying to flee. I was holding myself captive, tethered to the belief that this money and this sacrifice was my only path to a better future. The true prison was my own perception, my profound fear of failure. This profound realization, this aha,
that moment was a pivotal turning point, forcing me to confront my own internal narrative. It wasn't about escaping Mr. Allister or severing the bond with the baby. It was about severing the ties to my own past limitations and self-defeating patterns. The he wasn't a malicious captor, but a manifestation of my own fear of stepping into the unknown, my attachment to a familiar, albeit painful identity as someone who struggled. I saw how this fear had subtly guided my choices, even leading me to this extreme decision.
The desire for a quick fix, a large sum of money, was really a way to avoid the hard work of truly transforming my life from within. The core challenge wasn't external freedom, but internal liberation.
I knew then that true courage wasn't always a roar. Sometimes it was the quiet, agonizing decision to choose your own path, even when it means tearing away a piece of your past you once thought was inseparable. I thought of the evidence from psychological studies on memory and nostalgia, how our brains often idealize the past, making it harder to acknowledge flaws or the necessity of change. I was clinging to the memory of my desperate financial state as justification, preventing myself from seeing other solutions, other strengths within me. Imagine a grand vessel, eager for the open sea, but tethered by countless ropes to the dock. My internal he was one of those invisible threads, spun from self-doubt and the fear of failure, holding me just as firmly as any contract. I couldn't cut ties with the baby, nor could I renege on the contract, but I could cut ties with the self-imposed prison of my own mind.
This redefinition of the problem was the first step towards a genuine solution. With this newfound clarity, a quiet determination settled within me. I began to approach the remainder of my pregnancy and the upcoming birth with a different mindset.
I honored the contract, meticulously following all guidelines. But I also started to reestablish my own boundaries and reclaim my inner self. I dedicated specific times each day to planning my coffee shop, researching locations, sketching designs, and crunching numbers, not just as a desperate means to an end, but as a genuine act of self-actualization.
I started practicing affirmations, visualizing my future self, strong and independent, running her own successful business. I had difficult but necessary conversations with Lena, explaining the profound shift in my perspective, not just about the money, but about my own responsibility in my predicament.
This period wasn't without its challenges. There were moments of profound doubt, pangs of loneliness, and the constant emotional tug-of-war. The "he won't let me go" still echoed, but now it was a mantra of resilience, a reminder of the inner strength I was cultivating.
It was like a forest after a wildfire. Beneath the ash, life is already stirring, roots drawing strength from the renewed soil. The new growth might look fragile, but it will be stronger, more resilient. I was rebuilding not just my external life, but my internal landscape, learning to navigate the emotional complexities with a newfound sense of agency and autonomy. I understood that growth wasn't about erasing the past, but about integrating its lessons into an evolving future. The birth was a profound, intensely emotional experience. Holding the baby for the first time, a wave of unconditional love washed over me, a feeling so pure and powerful it almost broke my resolve.
This was the most difficult part, the moment of physical separation after months of intimate connection. Yet, intertwined with the deep sorrow of parting, was a strange, unexpected sense of peace. I had fulfilled my promise, not just to Mr. Allister, but to myself. I had navigated an incredibly challenging journey, confronted my deepest fears, and emerged stronger.
In that moment, the he of "he won't let me go" transformed once more. It was no longer a burden, nor an internal captor. It was the enduring legacy of this profound experience, a teacher that had pushed me to my limits and revealed my true potential.
The love I felt for the child, while bittersweet, was a testament to my capacity for connection and empathy, qualities that would enrich my life in countless ways. I saw Mr. Allister and Eleanor's tearful joy as they held their baby, a sight that brought a quiet sense of closure and purpose to my sacrifice.
I had given them the greatest gift, and in doing so, I had received a gift even greater, the gift of self-discovery. The money was a tangible reward, but the internal transformation was priceless. I wasn't just paying off debts. I was investing in a future built on courage, self-awareness,
and an unwavering belief in my own abilities.
My journey taught me that the true measure of liberation isn't the absence of external pressure, but the internal strength to redefine my own narrative, even when the old story tries to assert itself. I had chosen to use the prison key that was always in my own hand.
Months later, the aroma of freshly roasted coffee beans now fills a cozy corner cafe in Viridia City, a place I proudly call Clara's Brew. It's everything I dreamed of and more. The money from the surrogacy helped, yes, but it was my transformed mindset, my newfound resilience, and the sheer grit I discovered within myself that truly built this dream.
I'm no longer haunted by the "he won't let me go" that once felt like a chain. Instead, I carry the experience, the memories, and yes, the enduring emotional echo of that precious life I nurtured, not as a burden, but as a source of incredible strength and profound wisdom. It's like a river flowing forward.
Sometimes it meanders gently. Sometimes it rushes through rapids, carving its way through obstacles. But no matter the currents, it always continues, shaping the landscape as it goes, ultimately finding its own unique path to the vast, open sea.
My journey taught me that true freedom isn't found in escaping from external circumstances, but in mastering your own inner landscape, in consciously choosing your responses, and in accepting all facets of your being. The he didn't let me go, but I learned to coexist, to integrate, and to rise.
And now, I want to ask you, our amazing English with Rambo community, what does Clara's journey teach us about the subtle yet profound power of self-worth and the courage to define our own boundaries? What is one small, tangible step you could take in your own life, starting today, to foster a greater sense of personal freedom, however you define it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart and helped you practice your English listening and speaking, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to English with Rambo. We're on a mission to bring you more captivating stories that not only boost your English skills, but also resonate deeply with the human spirit.
And next time, we'll dive into a tale about unexpected friendships blooming in the most unlikely places, proving that connection can be found even when you least expect it. Don't miss it.